There we go.
All right. Sue, do you want to kick us off?
To start? Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sue Exline with the Planning Department. I think I know everybody, almost, at least most. George, I don't know if we've met. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So we're just doing an informal office hours here as an opportunity to ask questions. We have Michael Rhodes with the MTA. We have planning staff and OAWD. So drop in, drop out as you kind of, no new content, as I think we mentioned on the website, but just a chance to sort of follow up, I think, from the CAC meeting we had a couple weeks ago, and any other questions that you have kind of in this bucket, in this category. And then we have, I think folks mentioned, I got on a second late, but that Leslie from our team is kind of taking notes, and we'll be recording this and posting this after.
And then Nora, do you want to introduce folks from the
Sure.
design team?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Nora Collins. I am part of the development team with One Bay. We also have Kirsten on. Kirsten, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, as well as Scott. And then Karen, if you want to introduce yourself after that, that'd be great.
Kirsten with Bridge Housing, having some video issues. I'm here with Arlo, who's looking forward to the new daycare.
Sure.
Hi, Scott Falcone with the team. Lucky enough to get a shower in before this meeting, and I'm happy to be here with all of you. Nice to see you.
And I'm Karen Murray with Van Meter Waynes Pollock, part of the design team.
Great. So I think we'll just start. I think it's a small group, so we can probably just, if anybody has a question that they want to start with, just chime in, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and Sue, I think we were, depending on how many people, we want to make sure everyone has a chance to participate. So maybe just, while there's a small group, I think we can just go ahead and have back and forth, right? But if we end up having a lot of people, we'll probably want to cap it at 5 minutes for each person, just to have the back and forth, and then we can come back to you once we get to everyone, just to be respectful of folks' time.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's a way to kind of keep something in the chat, just to kind of let people know as they come on, that they can just maybe I'll try to send something in the chat that just that explains that just the idea is office hours, and someone just wrote a comment now, and just to kind of wait in a queue, and we'll see if you have questions. So I don't know if people prefer, we'll just maybe start. If someone here has a question, they can go ahead, and if it gets too complicated, maybe we'll use the chat system as a kind of queue to see who would be next. We're just so you know, this is our first time doing this office hours. We tried last week, and it was nobody showed up, so we will kind of see how this goes. And excited to have folks here.
I have a question. Hi, I'm Shaheen. I live near Ocean Avenue in Lee. And I'm really excited about this project. I think at the CAC meeting that City College is also doing some work on Ocean Avenue, widening the sidewalk and stuff like that. I wonder if you guys are coordinating with them, or how their plans affect yours.
Yeah, we are coordinating with them. So they, so you're familiar with the bond that they passed recently, and they have a retaining wall on the corner of Ocean and Frida Kahlo that they're proposing to move back and have, improved bike and pedestrian connections on that. So they have just, that process is just starting. And I don't know if Michael, if you have any more information on that coordination or anything else you want to add to that?
Unfortunately not. It's a little outside of my specific area but of expertise, but I'm aware that our MTA team has been coordinating with them as well on that.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah, I can also,
really great opportunity.
yeah, we were very excited that the college has made this decision. So they passed a bond in November, which will support the construction of a lot of three major new buildings, but a lot of other improvements on main campus. One of the big ones is the Student Success Center, right on the corner of Frida and Ocean, the northeast corner. They're going to be, and actually, Nora, maybe I can put this image up.
Yep. I can, if you want to go ahead and press share screen, that should be fine.
Let me do that. Sorry guys, this is also my first time screen sharing. So I need to make sure there we go. Let me see if I can get this bigger. So you can see here, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Here's the new Student Success Center. They're going to be moving it back from the corner quite a bit, and this will be a brand new expanded plaza. So much more room for pedestrians. And then, as you all know, this northern sidewalk on Ocean, which is a major way that students and residents traverse to BART, is super narrow. There's tree roots that are pulling it up. And so, as Sue already said, they, as part of the construction contract that the Board of Trustees approved, I believe at the end, either in the February or March, I think at the end of March, in their March trustees meeting, they approved the construction design build contract for this building, which includes, as part of the scope, relocating this retaining wall to the north to allow for more pedestrian and bike access in the right of way. And so obviously we've been very interested in working with them on this, and we've already had a preliminary meeting with some of Michael's colleagues at MTA and with all of the construction folks at City College to make sure we're coordinating.
And Sue, maybe I can just jump in for a second. And Shaheen, it's nice to see you in person after emailing with you back and forth a bunch. You know, typically how it would work is when a property owner does this kind of development and it's going to be changing the sidewalk and the right of way, they have to be working with MTA, right? And as you just heard from Lee, this is actually a proactive way of working together to coordinate conversations between City College and MTA. So this, as one very important spur of the Ocean Avenue improvements, is going to be something that the team members you see here today are going to be working on along with MTA.
And the way I understand it, the extra square footage on the road would enable wider sidewalks, bike lanes in each direction, and anything else, some landscaping.
Yeah, we're not sure yet. I mean, I think the beauty of having this early collaboration is that the college, you know, this is going to be partially on college property. It's not going to be all land that they dedicate to the city. So it's really going to be a collaboration. And so we want to make sure, you know, it's unclear yet if the actual curb line is going to move, right? If we're going to dedicate more space for cars, it's likely that that new space will be dedicated to some sort of bike facility and pedestrians. Mm-hmm. And Casey and Mark, who are Michael's colleagues at SFMTA and working on the pedestrian safety improvement project at Geneva and Frida and Ocean, are kind of initially taking the lead, because obviously that is their purview. And so we want to make sure we're super coordinated with what happens at that intersection for bikes and peds. But unknown yet exactly what the design's going to be, of course, until the work is done.
Also, on that drawing you showed, I think it also shows that the on-ramp onto Ocean Avenue from 280 is disappearing, turns into a right angle turn, which is welcome to any pedestrians or bicyclists.
Yes, I can't speak to that specifically, because I think that might be aspirational. I know we have to work with the state on that, and I know other folks at MTA have been doing that.
thought it was a
Or
done deal.
Michael, maybe you know more.
Unfortunately not, but I understand we are working with Caltrans on various improvements we'd like to see in that area.
Yeah, I don't think it's a done deal, John, just to
Yeah.
confirm that, but
Okay,
we can
good to know.
follow up exactly where it is in the process, because it's a good question.
Shaheen, did you have any other questions while while you're in the hot seat of question asking?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, if other people are waiting, I'm happy to wait. But I am curious if there's a map of where you expect bike lanes and protected bike lanes and closed streets to be in the development itself. I've seen some like drawings, like conceptual drawings and stuff, but it sounds like maybe that the rights of way and whether they're protected and dedicated and so on haven't been finalized yet. Is that right? Or
Karen, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll unmute. We are planning, so the rights of ways, they're not 100% finalized, but we do have them laid out. The idea is that we will have a new street that connects from Frida Kahlo over to an extended Lee Avenue. And so we're calling that North Street. So that street that connects from Frida Kahlo to Lee Avenue will have bike lanes, just painted bike lanes. Lee Avenue itself, for as long of a portion as we can, will have protected bike lanes with an actual curb separation. But then as it moves towards Ocean, the right-of-way, we have to conform back with the existing right-of-way. So it'll be narrowing down to a share there. And the idea is that will connect across to Holloway and connect to the bike system, the citywide bike system. Did that answer your question?
yeah, it does. I think. I mean, I guess there are going to be some streets north of there, right, in the development itself. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. So yes, in the development itself, we will have. Oh, that's great. Thank you for pulling that up. Where I'm not sure if that's whose cursor that is, but Lee Avenue here. The main portion of Lee Avenue that's alongside these buildings, E and C, will be the separated bike lane. This is a new street connection. Right now, Lee is just a kind of a stub dead end road there. So we'll be building this whole new street, and that's where we have the separated bike lanes. And then North Street, which is our connecting road, you can see the bike lanes there too. So those bike lanes will connect across to Frida Kahlo. And then, we'll have, those are the main new street bike lanes.
Yeah, very excited to see all these protected bike lanes. It'll make it much easier for me to get up through to the north side of the city. I wonder if there's an opportunity to extend them south at all, if that's something MTA is open to or something you've discussed.
Our issue here is that once we get past this South Street intersection, we have to narrow up because we're moving into an existing existing condition as we get to Ocean Avenue. So we can only work within the right of way we have there because there are buildings on either side of that. So unfortunately, we can't keep the protected bike lanes going all the way, at least within our site.
Shine, you're talking about maybe connecting over to Holloway or
right. Well, that's
connection?
the idea. It as we move into this portion of the site where we can, we no longer have the protected bike lanes and the lanes turn into sharrows. Those can continue across to Holloway, and then Holloway is part of that larger citywide bike network. So that's the idea there.
About 5 years ago, a lane was taken out in each direction on Frida Kahlo to put in a bike lane.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it a lot safer for cyclists. I'm not taking sides. Well, I am taking sides. I'm pro bike lane. But it also slowed down cars quite a bit to the point where people in Sunnyside began to complain about long a long wait between Judson and Ocean Avenue. So at the same time, it's still, even in this condition, it's difficult to cross the street if you're going from City College to the parking lot or to the MUB or whatever. I've heard multiple people contact me with complaints about that. And so I want to make sure that if there's any advocates on this in this meeting, that we advocate for keeping those bike lanes, because I think they're necessary, even though it's going to be duplicated on Lee, that we keep the traffic calming on Frida Kahlo. Just my 2 cents.
Agree.
I have a question. Can I
Okay,
ask?
should we, Jocelyn? Yeah.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I noticed that the San Ramon Paseo, the little street jutting out from Plymouth, is still on the map. I haven't been to one of these since the big one at Reardon, and we got a chance to see all the maps. And I know that was a concern among the Westwood Park folks, partly because Plymouth is a very narrow road already, and very residential, and just having used it forever, it's already kind of hard to use. So is that still in the plan, and is there any particular reason why it needs to remain that way? And maybe this isn't the forum for that. I just was told I could join this as a resident.
Sure, we can maybe pull up the site plan again. We still have that in our plan. It's a pedestrian only.
Okay.
So it's not a vehicular road going through. It's just a pedestrian way and slow bike lane. So you can see it's kind of designed as a, well, it's a little hard to tell here, but it's just a pedestrian way, sort of an open space there that connects.
So I know the other concern was that people would use the neighborhood to park because there wouldn't be enough parking, and I totally understand the whole parking versus taking transportation challenges. So also just curious if that was ever discussed again since that big gathering as a concern for parking, or will we be going to strict parking permits for the Westwood Park neighborhood so that this particular new neighborhood, I don't know what it's going to be called, will not be able to park in there in Westwood Park? I'm just curious how the parking is going to
Maybe we can, I don't know, Michael, if you feel comfortable talking about how a neighborhood gets a parking permit. Is that something that you feel comfortable talking about? If they want one, a residential parking permit? Oops, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, I had to figure out how to unmute it. Yeah, I mean, I am in the transit division, so I don't want to speak too much to the parking policy that might be already underway there, but it is possible for residents to generally request parking permits for their neighborhood if that's something that they do want. But again, I'm not sure what some of the background might be with that specific neighborhood and their interest in past work with our parking group to facilitate that. But generally, it's something if a neighborhood wants, we're often able to accommodate.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything else, Jocelyn, you would like?
I am curious because I haven't seen the plan. If you can scroll out on this plan, just to be reminded of where if there's been any changes. I think it's been maybe 6-8 months since the last big community meeting. And so I'm sure there are. If there's one on the parking structure that's over by Reardon, that's where I remember it was going to be. And there's an empty space up in the top right corner, and wondering what that is.
That is part of City College property.
Okay.
So that will be, for them to decide. Right now, Norm, you may be able to talk about this, but we're not considering, I think, a standalone parking garage. What we're looking at is in these subgrade, we have subgrade garages underneath all of these multifamily buildings, the larger ones, G, F, C, and D has a large one, A. So incorporating public parking into those garages that we'll be building already. So that's the plan we've been looking at lately.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the other
Uh,
go
This
ahead.
is Joe from Avalon Bay. I can just
Okay.
chime in on the
Sure.
City College side too. So, City College had, in a previous version of their facilities master plan, they had showed, I think what you're referring to, sort of the top right corner of the screen. They had a garage shown there right up against Reardon on the City College land. Um, I don't know if they've updated their master plan. That's not in the current bond that they just got approved. You know, the next set of like 8 or 10 buildings that they have approved, that's not in there. But I don't know if that's still in the master plan long term or not. But we're sort of moving forward that the parking that we're responsible for replacing is going to be done just as Karen described within the residential garages on the site, so underneath the buildings that are shown.
Would access to G be through just North Street, or would it also be on the Reardon, the spot where next to Reardon where you can go down into the reservoir now?
It would basically be just North Street. Actually, and Nora, I don't know if you have control, if you can zoom in there. The reason that street is, and maybe just go all the way up, the reason that street is shown the way it is, so the one sort of north-south, up-down, is Lee Avenue. We took it all the way up to the north end of the site because that's Reardon's parking exit right now.
Yeah.
And so we've committed to them that we're going to maintain that exit. People can still go in and out of their garage or their parking lot that way. And so that's what that is showing right there. The entrance to the garage on building G, I mean, these buildings haven't been designed, so there still is some flexibility, but I believe it's been, I mean, in the DSG, and I'm not sure how required it is, but I know the assumption in the DSG is, in the design standards that are being approved, is that the garage for building G will be accessed from North Street. So it would be sort of right there where it says North Street on the drawing. There's an entrance right there to that garage.
Okay. And I'm sorry, one last question, because I remember this was a big deal at that same community meeting, that there were some conversations around what was proposed as the height of the number of stories, and then what they came back with, and I think there was a tad bit of difference in that. It was, I don't remember the numbers. I want to say it was 4 stories versus 6, but I'm wondering now what the latest is and what the tallest buildings are and where they are.
So we have, actually this site plan was kind of against the western property line. The townhouses are 2 stories for the first townhouse. They step up to 3 and then potentially 4 stories. So that there's a gradation of height from the western property line up. The tallest buildings are up to 7 stories along Lee. So those buildings, fronting Lee would be 7. So we're grading down from 7 stories, stepping down as we get to the west. And may be able to pull up a height diagram, but.
Got you.
Okay, there we go. So this explains it pretty well. You can see the green line on the western property line is the 2-story height limit. It's 25 feet just to allow for variations in grade and roof line. Then we step up to 35 feet. We have the potential, then the gray blue is 4 stories of 48 feet. And that goes across on both sides of West Street. And then we're stepping up to 5 and then 5, 6, and 7 stories along Lee.
So I'm curious how it keeps, I feel like it keeps creeping up. So how did it get to 7 stories? Because I remember 6 was already considered kind of controversial. So I'm just wondering what happened between then and now that got it to that point. I mean, it's nice that it's at least along the street, but I'm just curious.
I think we had been at 7 since the beginning. I'm not totally positive because it's I remember that meeting. It was a while ago, but it really hasn't changed a lot since the beginning. I think we had been at 6 to 7 on those the easternmost buildings at the start.
Right, and this is showing the limits, right? So the outside limits of the height.
Yeah.
And these buildings all have, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there was a lot of conversation about it. And this is a complicated explanation. I don't want to make it too long, but the environmental review document studied this proposal, which is the proposal that our team has come up with, along with an alternative that the city, that the planning department put on the table. And the planning department alternative had, I mean, roughly 1 story on top of everything we had. So their highest height limit went to eight stories. And we, that was never sort of what we had proposed or planned to build. And so that was studied, but it hasn't been included in the final proposal.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I don't know if anyone else has joined us.
The other change since that meeting was the axis of the park changed.
Okay, I couldn't remember when that happened. That was a long.
Right about the time we had that open house. Right about the time when you guys painted the green.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was just after that.
Right. If we go back to the plan, I can point that out too. So almost. So there we go. In response to comments about the park being, worries about the park being windy and sun access, we changed the orientation of the park. So it's now runs north-south. Before it used to run primarily east-west. And then it's protected from the western winds by the buildings and has better solar access too. So that was a major kind of form change in the site plan that for the buildings and the open spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, John.
Is the park going to be owned? What's the name of the whole section? Just out of curiosity. What's the working name, I guess?
We're calling it the Balboa Reservoir neighborhood.
Okay.
And then the park is Reservoir Park, the large one in the middle.
And is it managed by the city? Is it Park and Rec, or is it managed by the Balboa Reservoir community?
Yeah, it will be managed by the basically the owners of all the buildings that'll be built will collectively come together and manage it. But it's got the development agreement that the city's drafted has basically all the public access requirements that it will have, and so it's it has to be open 24/7. It's got to have all the different all the different requirements that would make it a truly public space. That'll be the responsibility of all the owners to maintain.
Yeah, this is Lee from the city's Office of Economic and Workforce Development. I can just add that the development agreement, which is the contract that gives the developer the right to construct the whole project as shown in that drawing, and also requires them to do the community benefits that are outlined in that contract. It has an exhibit that is called the open space exhibit. It's an open space plan, and that exhibit spells out in detail which of these open spaces, all of them, that the developer has to build. They're obligated to build once they start developing their project. A very long list of regulations that they have to adhere to. And then the important thing that's in there is a declaration of restrictions that will be recorded against the property once those open spaces are complete. And that's, just to put it in layman's terms, essentially, we will be putting kind of a public access easement over the parks to have that legal enforcement that these are actually public parks. And those will include regulations about maintenance and public use that are consistent with the way the city manages parks, to make sure that these parks are managed the same way. This has been a very successful process that we've used for a lot of the other big master plan projects in the city. We have these layers of kind of regulations and obligations that have worked out very well in terms of ensuring that there's funding to maintain these parks well, that there's, you know, the HOA or the owners of the buildings are paying attention, and that, you know, we're obviously hoping that these spaces will be well programmed and everything like that. So it's found in the development agreement open space exhibit.
Is there a location on any of the websites where the neighborhoods around can take a look at what the plans are and so forth? Is there anything that's open?
Yeah, the planning department's website has all of the materials posted.
Okay.
There's a new package that is just going to the planning commission today, and so that will be posted by tomorrow. So there's a new kind of draft of the DSG and other materials, but if you go to I can just put it
I just posted a link in the chat, Jocelyn.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
That's great, thank you.
And we'll have, like I said, the newest materials will be uploaded by tomorrow. And there's just so you know, Jocelyn, there's another CAC meeting on Monday evening.
Oh, okay, this is the same site that we went to come to get this address. Okay, I didn't think about it as being the one that had lots of detail, but thank you.
Yeah, and so the CAC meeting on Monday evening from 6 to 8 p.m., that will kind of go into much more detail on the developer agreement and walk through that. Excellent,
thanks. So am I actually not in the right meeting? Should I not have been in this one?
No, you're in the right.
Okay.
This is just the informal chat. I have a question, and then like we haven't actually presented all of to everybody the DA part. So we presented there's a number of components to this, and the design standards and guidelines and the transportation, those kind of pieces of those have been presented in past CAC meetings. And then the DA work is going to come this Monday. So if you can have questions about any of it, but if you have, I don't think anybody's really seen it's been posted, but anybody hasn't seen it. I don't think anybody's gotten into the details yet.
Okay. So if we wanted to see more, that would be, and you think that will probably be in attendance of more the neighborhood if interested? I just wanted to make sure I'm not, sitting in on something that isn't open to everyone.
You're in the right place.
Okay.
You're in the right place today, and you're also will be in the right place if you.
Okay, thanks.
Both options.
Yeah, always welcome.
All right, good.
Did anybody else? Amy, I saw you here. I don't know if you had any specific questions or you wanted to.
Well, I had a short presentation about the intersection of Judson and Frida Kahlo, which me and many other people in Sunnyside really feel that MTA has got to address. And it's quite close to the project, it's quite close to North Drive. Can I share my screen?
Go for it.
Okay, let's see. So this is a view of the area. So here's can you see my arrow?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the intersection here, and this is the present entrance to the reservoir, and this is what I'm going to talk about. So it was designed in 1964 just for automobile convenience, and it reduced pedestrian access. It's right next to Reardon and City College, used by thousands of student pedestrians, plus, when anybody in Sunnyside wants to go to Ocean Avenue or now to the Balboa Reservoir project, that's where we come through. Also, it's used as a cut through by cars coming up Frida Kahlo who are going on to Monterey Boulevard. They cut through Judson, which is just a tiny little street, but people use it all the time for that particular
Just the pedestrian experience is really poor at this intersection. There's no crosswalks on the south or the east side of the intersection. 9 of the 12 ways that automobiles can move through the intersection have no stop signs that affect pedestrian access. The nearest crosswalk to the east is 370 feet. The nearest one to the south, 450 feet. And that's going to change to 670 feet when North Street is relined. Jaywalking, as you might imagine, is really common here. So there's only one stop sign that's been added since 1964, and that was one I asked for, and that hasn't made a whole lot of difference, and that's just at the end of Judson. So this is a picture in 1964 when they, in the annual report, when they wined it, they took a strip off of City College to put in extra lanes for cars and to accommodate City College car traffic. So here's shows the hashed areas show where they shaved off of City College to make it wider. All right, so I'm just gonna go through some, oh, here's the map. So that's where you can't walk, you have to go there right now, and that's where you're gonna have to walk to if you wanna cross the street. So these routes that cars can travel through this intersection with no stop signs whatsoever are this direction, this direction, this direction, here, 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 here. And then when you go this way, there's a stop sign, but it's in the middle of the intersection, has nothing to do with pedestrian safety. Same thing going here. So that means the cars just whiz through here. And even though there's yellow striped crosswalks, there's no actual stop sign to keep cars from traveling through those crosswalks, which is kind of, it's just a terrible intersection. People avoid it and it feels scary, and it's just, it needs attention. It's a design for another era. So I'm asking that this intersection be addressed in the, in the context of Balboa Reservoir safety, street safety improvements, and that we don't get ignored at this end of Frida Kahlo. Because when cars come out of North Street onto Frida Kahlo, they're gonna look down towards Ocean and they're gonna think, oh, I'll just get around that by going up Judson. So we're gonna have more car traffic and we're gonna have more pedestrian traffic, because if you wanna come up and get the crosstown bus, the 23, you will walk through this intersection. If you're in Sunnyside and you want to go to Ocean Avenue, you will walk through this, or to the park in the Reservoir Park, you're going to walk through this intersection. It's just got to be addressed. So that's my request.
As a local, I would totally agree. I walk by it every day to walk to work. I drive through it, and I've been driving through it for years. And it's for locals who kind of get it and know to stop, it's great. But for everyone else, and for a lot of reckless drivers, it's a pretty unsafe intersection. I totally back up Amy on that one.
Yeah, me too.
I'd second, third that. It's a terrible intersection.
I think, Amy, this shot really says it all. When you've got this much paint on a road, that means the road is not designed in a way to do what it should do for all users. And so then the city slaps a bunch of paint on it to try to rationalize it, and it completely doesn't work.
Has Michael got anything to say about how this might change?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in, Amy, and then I'll turn it to Michael for his response as well. But firstly, thank you for putting this together. I think the visuals are extremely helpful. You submitted a letter that was sent to me regarding this intersection in particular, but a number of other areas of concern at the end of February. And I just got feedback from the safety team at MTA that they're doing evaluations of all of the intersections that were mentioned in your letter. So those safety evaluations are happening right now. And so they will be responding to you once that's complete to let you know kind of what the diligence they've done leads them to do. But Michael, I'll turn it to you because I know you're in the transit division, but you may have more insight into how these types of things are done within the agency. But Amy, I did just want to let you know that there is an assigned safety evaluator that's working through your comments.
Thank you. I know that the other intersections all the way down the other direction in Judson, on Judson, have got every intersection down from Genesee to Circular has got things that are being done to it or have been done. It's just this one was not included on a participatory budgeting package for the street. So thank you.
To add to what Amy showed with all the red lines, when I walk that at certain times in the morning, it's when Reardon opens and they go up the, let's see, on the top side of the building above Reardon, and they fly. They go really fast. So they're going through that intersection from Judson or from Frida Kahlo. They're turning left and they're going down the side to go into the back entrance of the school. I think it's the way they want them to go through, then to come out the other side, which is coming out then on the new design would be coming out the other side of the building. So it's like one-way traffic. So that won't go away. And it's pretty intense and it's early in the morning. So it's during high traffic commute for the working people. Not so much for the school, but mostly for the working. Just my 2 cents to add.
Thanks. Yeah, and I know my colleagues in the safety focus division are aware of this, and we'll, hopefully we can follow up and provide more information on where they're at with that.
Thank you.
And Amy, are you up to speed on the speed hump and crosswalk repainting on Judson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything's happening from Genesee
Yeah.
eastward. It's this intersection that got left off the list or got left off the project for whatever reason. It's just, it's a big deal, right? I mean, it's going to take major work. I understand that. It's, so it wasn't an easy thing there. You can't do it with paint,
It looks like they've tried that from what I can see.
They can't do a good job with paint. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Thank you would you be willing to email this to me or to the BRCAC email? Because then I can also forward it on.
Sure. What form is best, PDF or PPT? PowerPoint?
Probably PDF, but
Okay.
either way is fine.
Okay, I will.
Thank you, Amy. Amy, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
Not right now, thank you.
Hi, Rita, how are you?
Hi. I sure appreciate you giving this opportunity to talk about transportation issues. And I especially wanted to follow up on some things that were said earlier regarding the removal of one of the traffic lanes on Den Phelan Avenue, and the addition of the bike lanes. And I certainly agree that those were very, very good improvements. I think it could have been handled a lot better and we could have gotten a lot more out of those changes. But what I'd like to advocate is that we take that a step further and remove the parking lanes on Frida Kahlo, so that we would be able to really have safe bike lanes on there, in addition to transit only, to address some of the issues about the movement of traffic. And I think that that would be not only something in terms of improving the flow of, say, the 43, and thereby encouraging people to take it, but also making the streets safer for pedestrians. And I couldn't more heartily concur in talking about a change like that, to say that Amy's observation about the intersection at the end of the street are dead on. And in that context, I think the whole issue of signals on that, on Frida Kahlo, or traffic control, I should say, whether it's a stop sign or a sophisticated traffic signal is something that has to be looked at as part of this. I believe they're fairly sophisticated, coordinated, advanced traffic signal timing on there, and I believe it might even tie into the transit signal priority on Ocean Avenue. But we certainly have had issues in the past where the signals either were not set correctly in the first place, or there was an issue where something happened to them, but no one came back to take a look at them. So that had a lot to do with the experience of people getting stuck on, very, very long red signals on weekends when there was no traffic and some other issues. And it's the sort of thing that can really make a difference in the lives of the folks who are going to be absorbing the 2,500, 3,000, whatever new residents it's going to be along there. So I really do think that the opportunity to look at that configuration of Frida Kahlo, and especially, get rid of those parking spaces on there. It was interesting. I heard in another meeting, someone observed that a lot of those spaces are occupied by Muni workers who used to park in one of the areas, I believe, that might even be used for the RVs now, to house the RVs. But in any event, I think it could be put to a much better use by promoting the use of transit and increasing the safety for pedestrians and cyclists moving through that area. And again, looking at Frida Kahlo, I certainly do commend every effort, every consideration to examining the Frida Kahlo Ocean Geneva intersection and the possibility of some realignment there to improve safety and improve the movement of transit. Thank you.
I'd like to add to that, as someone who drives along Frida Kahlo to go to a night class, not at the City College, but that's my drive because Plymouth is harder to get through at 6 o'clock. And going literally from one stoplight to the next, someone pulled out over the bike lane and then hit me. Very nice student, all taken care of, not a problem. But it's a perfect example of, you've got parking, you've got drivers, you've got bikes, and you've got now increased pedestrians, and you have the buses. And that was literally at crawling speed, so that's not even at like full 25-mile-an-hour speed. So it's something that will just grow as far as I can see. And I do this every week, all year long, on the same day of the week. So it's not an easy area to drive through with, and walk through, and bike through, and take the bus through. So it's just something repetitive. It's not just something I've done once, as an observation.
I think it's really a good thing that we're starting to widen our focus on into the outside of the actual site of the development, and looking at the surrounding areas. I really appreciate Amy's look at Judson and Frida Kahlo, and what City College is doing on Ocean Avenue, and the realignment at Ocean and Frida Kahlo. And I was going to ask Michael, if not to put you on the spot again, but since this is a transit question, I was wondering if you're looking at any kind of transit actuated signaling, so that when the buses come up from San Jose, that they can turn the lights green and make the buses go a little faster. What do you think about that?
Well, we've definitely been looking at transit coordinated signal timing for Ocean Avenue to kind of benefit the K Ingleside line. But we can definitely, as we're looking at, and see if we can kind of make sure that the other approaching intersections like Geneva, for instance, are coordinated as much as possible. It is a complex area with a lot of different movements, and we're timing to give pedestrians enough time to cross, and a lot of other vehicles and a lot of other factors. But we definitely, as we take a close look at Ocean Avenue as a corridor, I think we have an opportunity to see what we can do to benefit the 43 and 8 and the routes as well.
Yeah, the 8, the 29, even the 43, whatever can be done for the 43 would be great too.
Of course, yeah.
It gives people more of a choice. if the traffic moves if the transit moves a little faster.
Yeah, and just to comment on some of the earlier feedback that we got, we will be taking a look as part of related to this project. We'll be looking at Frida Kahlo and the transit, basically the transit conditions for the 43 on Frida Kahlo, and that'll give us a chance to primarily focus on transit, but also, you know, sometimes there are some benefits for pedestrians in the work that we do for that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and what Michael is referring to is as part of the project EIR, there's a required mitigation measure that the project will commit to once the project gets approved, which is to contribute fair share funding towards a potential improvement for the 43 coming down Frida. Right now, what the MTA is looking at is creating a bus island, which would help the bus, because right now the bus has to pull out of the lane of traffic to pull over to the bus stop to load and unload folks, and then has to merge back in. And so that's a big source of delay for transit. If we create a bus island, the bus basically doesn't have to change lanes. It can just drive, stop at the island, load and unload, and keep going. I have a couple pictures that Michael, your colleague Tony, sent me this morning. Let me just try to do a little screen share to show you. And I want to be very clear that, you know, anything that that MTA proposes to do has to be fully studied. So here's one example of a bus island. Here's the island. This one has a protected bike lane to the inside and the travel lane here. Here's another precedent image, which shows the bus island here. This is the bus lane. And then on this side is the car travel lane. In this condition, this is a Muni only lane.
Still the
Lee, I
same
think-
image, Lee.
Yeah, I think you need to go to stop share and then share again and like
Oh.
switch to the other photo. It's okay.
What were you saying?
I just learned it like 2 days ago, so.
Okay, wait a second. Bear with me. There we go. So this is the second precedent image, which shows the bus island. There's a car travel lane to the inside, and then a transit only lane here. And so the bus island that is potentially going to be, you know, installed or analyzed and then potentially installed on southbound Frida would have one of these conditions. Until MTA does all the analysis to figure out what's going to be most effective, they won't know whether, you know, exactly what this orientation would be, which is why they sent a couple of images. But this should just give you an idea. Again, the main goal is to make sure, and Michael, you can explain the point of an island better than I can, but you know, to not delay the bus from going out of the lane and back in.
Yeah, it's a little faster. It provides a lot smoother ride for passengers. It's a little more like being on a train, where the train's not kind of pulling over and back into traffic every 30 seconds the way that a bus does. So it's a more comfortable ride. But it also provides a pedestrian refuge. As you can see, the person crossing Taraval in this photo, you know, she's benefiting from a kind of safe space as she's getting across the street, which is a treatment we often do unto itself, even when we don't have a bus there. So it just kind of helps break up the crossing distance for pedestrians as well.
And the last thing I'd say is that like I said, through the EIR that analyzed the Balboa project, this was identified as a transit mitigation measure. And so what that means is the project is required to pay a fair share contribution towards this mitigation. Once the MTA actually studies this, they will confirm that this is indeed the best way to make sure that the 43 moves faster. But it's up to the MTA to determine that and to do outreach to you all in the community to make sure that this design makes sense. if there's a different intervention that makes more sense to do, the project sponsor, the developer, is still required to pay that fair share contribution to ensure that the intervention happens. So it's up to the MTA to fully vet the intervention, but it's up to this developer to be required to fund their fair share portion of it.
Has there been any study where the knots are on the 43 line along the entire line?
Yeah, there has been, and you know, just as an aside, we've had an interesting experience during the shelter in place. You know, for the first couple of weeks, we took a look at how travel times on the 43 and a lot of other lines in our system were faring without congestion, and that gave us a lot of insight into where, you know, where things could be traveling a little smoother and faster if we weren't stuck in traffic. Of course, there's a lot of other things that can slow us down even without traffic. If there's a lot of stop signs, or there's you know, other sort of aspects of the design of the route that slow us down. But we do have an interest with the entire 43 in the coming years, in taking a broader look at the line and probably doing kind of not a super capital intensive project with you know, really big costs across the line, but more kind of nuts and bolts, smaller type changes that we can do to help address some of the congestion and other kind of inefficiencies that it experiences. But that's still sort of something that we're in the earliest stages of thinking through, but it's definitely something we're looking at.
Yeah, we hear a lot from on the CAC from students who do not want to take transit to school because it takes too long. So that would be something worth looking at.
Travel time and reliability are absolutely the sort of top concerns we hear about, and crowding are top concerns we hear about muni service. So those are you know, they're definitely some very high priorities for us.
Okay, thanks. Excuse me.
Rita, did you raise your hand again?
Yeah, it looks like.
No, I didn't. I just put a comment in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I don't know if we can take a second to read it, Rita, or do you wanna make the comment?
Actually, I just wanted to have that for the record, since this does not relate to transportation, but John did mention it in a previous comment. I did not want to veer away from the transportation topics. Thanks.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay, was there anyone else on the line that would like to speak? George? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, George Wooding. I'm not a resident. I'm just an interested party. I work with a lot of different neighborhood organizations throughout the city. And one of the questions that's come up in our groups, this is more for Michael in a macro sense, is the M line, which seems to be a perennial studied line that is never completed or never built out to San Francisco State. And then oftentimes it's supposed to go to the Junipero-Serra BART station or whatever, because there's no BART on the west side of San Francisco. So there's no way to connect with BART. And I have often felt, we've done our own studies after years of dealing with the SFMTA, we have felt that sending the M up Randolph to Balboa would be a very good example that could very quickly get a lot of traffic and a lot of people and clear a lot of congestion. And I wanted to get your thoughts, because you've had endless meetings over the last, or not you, but your group has had endless meetings with neighborhoods, and it seems to have done nothing. So at least as far as I know. So I'm curious if that has even been looked at.
Yeah, could you maybe describe a little more in detail about the routing that you're sending? You mentioned sending the M up Randolph to Balboa.
Yes, the M is supposed to go through the tunnel, up West Portal, then it's supposed to go along 19th Avenue to San Francisco State, where it's either supposed to turn around or it's supposed to supposedly go to Junipero Serra to connect with BART, Daly City. And through the years, many people have considered that why not just simply turn on Randolph that already has the existing rails and tracks and go straight to Balboa. And I've never heard your agency once mention why that's not feasible.
When you say, because it does turn on Randolph now and then it takes Broad to San Jose to get to Balboa Park BART station. What would be different about this proposal?
This proposal, you're talking about the M?
Yeah, are you talking about the M?
Yes.
Yeah. So the M currently, from Junipero Serra, 19th Avenue, it goes on to Randolph, Broad, San Jose, and then it ends, terminates at Balboa Park.
So what I want to know is, would the M continue to do that now? Or would you, because we've been told that the group, your basic goal is to get to BART lower than Balboa, down to Junipero Serra. So I want to know the way you're rearranging things, if what your exact priorities and goals are. If you're going to come up with a 43, and that's going to be your main way to get to Balboa, I wish that we could get one clear explanation over the years over what you folks are trying to do with the M line.
Yeah, well, I can just say we definitely will continue to have M line service on, or rail service of some sort on Randolph and Broad going forward. And we just received a grant from the state for major travel time and reliability improvements on that on the Ocean View segment of the M line. So on Randolph and Broad specifically in San Jose. So kind of improving the travel time through that corridor is a high priority for us and is now something that's specifically funded through a competitive state grant. I know that there is a study that has looked at potentially a subway extension of the M line so that it would travel from kind of Sloat to Stonestown in a subway. That's a project some of my colleagues have worked on previously. But the short answer is we're interested in improving reliability on the existing M service to Balboa Park. And there are some longer range plans as to potential restructure or so forth.
Norman Yee has mentioned that very same, or has referred to that very same study as going underground. So, so it's very confusing to us when the supervisors are saying one thing, you're saying one thing. You've had different goals and objectives over the years. So, I just want to have some clarity. That's one reason I came in today, to hear how you were going to, from a macro level, get the buses to the project. So
yeah, I guess the main answer is that we do plan to continue to have rail service on the Randolph corridor and Broad corridor, so that will not go away, even if someday part of the M line is in the subway and goes to Park Merced or some other destination. There will always be a rail line on those other corridors that you mentioned.
Okay.
It would be complementary, not replacing.
Okay, thank you. And the only other question I had, I'm not new to the project, but I've studied it from afar, is what is the distance from the housing to the actual BART station? Does anyone know?
Balboa Reservoir to Balboa BART? It's about a mile.
How long would it take me from the project to get to the BART?
It's
About
a,
a 10-minute walk from Unity Plaza. But if you're at the other end of the project, it'll take another 10 minutes, I suppose,
Okay,
at a normal walking pace.
okay.
How pleasant it is right now is up in the air. That needs to be improved. The comfort,
that
dignity
will-
of the walk should be improved.
That will handle bikes, people coming both directions, ADA, everything, correct?
One would hope.
Okay, thank you.
Pushing for that.
Okay, I don't know if there's other folks who are not on video who have anything that they would like to add or chime in, or questions or comments.
This is Jennifer, and I was wondering, what is Caltrans or Caltrain doing for the off-ramp? Where does that sit, and are we making any progress on that effort off of 280 at Ocean?
Yeah, I think, Jennifer, we need to look where that stands. We don't have, the latest information I think we have is that it's been studied. And I don't know if approvals have, I don't believe approvals have happened yet. So we can get back to you on exactly where they are in the process. You mean the 280 off-ramp and right, the sort of right angling of that off-ramp?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Thank you.
Yes. We'll get back to you. Anything else, Jennifer?
I was wondering if anyone had been considering making some of the neighborhood roads one way, and that may be way out of what people are doing right now, but I'm just curious. Is that under consideration and study? Some of the neighborhood roads like in Sunnyside and Westwood Park.
I don't believe there's a study to make any of those roads one way that are, I have not heard of that. Michael, I don't know if you have anything you can add if you've heard that.
I haven't heard anything about that. I think we'd have to check in with some of my colleagues to confirm.
Jennifer, do you mean in response to this development project or independent of?
In response to the project, because there are a lot of implications for the surrounding areas, and that's why I ask. Thank you.
Yeah, we can confirm that there are not any plans right now to study looking at one ways in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's online who would like to ask a comment, provide a comment or ask a question?
I have a question. I'm back about the public garage. I'm looking at I guess it's a site plan or some kind of presentation. It says the total number of spaces will depend on the outcome of parking studies. I wonder if those have been done yet, when they'll be done, and what a parking study entails.
Sure. Yeah, I can start on that one, and other folks can chime in too. So this is Joe from Avalon Bay. We have done a bunch of parking counts. City College has actually done their own, funded their own transportation and parking study, and that has really been the basis. All the data has been consistent, but that's been the basis for where we've been deriving the sort of the parking plan. The study, the reason that the plans say that we'll continue to study is because the plan is to build the public parking in phase 2. And so during the phase 1, and maybe let me back up. So there's 8 sort of the larger buildings on the site plan. We're planning to build those in 2 phases. So there'll be 4, and basically it's the 4 in the center around the public park will be built first, along with the ring road. And then the buildings, building G and then building A and B So up on the north side and the south side, those will be built later. So in the interim, those will just be surface parking lots. The lot where building G will be and the lot where buildings A and B will just be surface parking. And then what we plan to do is open that up to the public, use it just like the reservoir lots use now, and then study how many people are actually there every day. We'll have, we can set up tracking, sort of an in and out count system, so we know exactly who's there. And then that will be the continuing data. So over, what could be 2-3 years, get continuing data on exactly how many people are needing to park down there.
Oh, that's a interesting study design, because I've heard that parking actually to some extent induces its own demand. So if we open up a bunch of parking around A and B, and then we count how many cars are there in order to measure demand for parking, it seems to me that may be different from the demand if we only open up A or only B open up to cars. So I wonder if you have some way to account for that, or how that would work.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. Lee, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can jump in. So another exhibit in our development agreement is the transportation plan, and that's where it outlines this process for interim and permanent public parking. One of the key priorities that we've incorporated in there is to make sure that the pricing for the public spaces is specifically set up to not induce demand, because MTA is a transit first agency. That's one of their key priorities, and they obviously have had a key hand in helping us craft that exhibit. And so that is basically the biggest restriction we've put, is basically you can't offer, early bird specials or month-long super discounted rates, things that would normally induce drivers to just decide to do that. We want to make sure that the demand is for people that need to park. They have to drive, they need to drive, they can park, and they'll just pay the market rate.
Oh, great. And that sounds great. And that'll be true during the parking study, or only during implementation of the garage after the study? Do you know?
Both.
Great. Awesome. Cool. Thanks a lot.
This is Jennifer. So we know that the parking issues are going to have an implication for students at City College, those who need to get to and from the college. And there are a lot of different scenarios, so we need to consider that. But I guess my question is, for the parking garages, have you looked at companies or programs like EV Match has, where they have chargers for the garages that you can actually share and allocate some for students, and they can actually break it up, so they can allocate charging for students and they can allocate charging for residents, and you can change the different, so you have different prices and different, anyway, there's a lot of sharing that can happen. I was wondering if you looked into any of those programs in the garages.
Yeah, I'll go first. We haven't yet. I think there is a pretty hefty electric vehicle charging requirement in the garages, and we've done some pilots. At least our company has done some pilots of some of the different charging stations, and have done some that are, I guess I would say, not assigned. Like, so, the easiest way to do it is you have a plug, and someone who owns an electric car plugs in their charger to that plug, and that's their assigned space. That's simple, but certainly doesn't serve as many people. So we have looked at some alternatives in some other buildings that, you have and I know ChargePoint is one of the brands. I forget, there's 2 or 3 more that we've tried. And so we've played around with it. And there's, this garage obviously will be different as well, because there's the public parking element too. So it's, I would say it's something we haven't gotten into the details of yet, because we don't, we're not into the detailed building designs yet, but that's something that would be on the table for sure going forward.
Okay, great. Because there's pretty sophisticated systems now, and you don't have to just go with one like ChargePoint. Thank you.
Okay, just checking to see if there's anybody else who is wanting to ask a question or comment.
Okay, I guess I'm out. So thank you for everything. It's been a very good meeting.
Thanks.
Thank
Okay,
you all
Mr.
for attending.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
We have about 10 minutes left. I don't know. Do you think anyone's going to zoom in the last 10 minutes?
I can definitely stay on. I'm happy to stay here.
See you later. Thanks.
Well,
Bye, John.
John.
I'm going to say thank you very much and leave as well. You have a good day.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
I'll say goodbye as well. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And Joe, I didn't mean to say that one system is better than another. I just wanted to, since I am involved with Golden Gate Electric Vehicle Association, I have
I forgot.
familiar.
Yeah, no,
Thank
I have no idea which one's better. So we, when we get to that point, we would love to get whatever the latest thinking is on it.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jennifer.
Bye.
You guys want to hang out for 10 minutes or I don't know if everybody needs to, but
I can leave it on just in case someone comes in. I guess we need Nora to hang
Yeah,
out.
I'll stay here because
She's the one.
it's my Zoom.
Thanks,
And
Nora.
I'll figure out a way to send out the recording. But with everyone who is on, Sunyan, Sue, Lee, thank you for all your help on getting everything out today.
yeah, thank you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Sunyan, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
Okay, should we take bets on how big the packet is?
I know when committee